Hi, we're here with Lydia Baker with Florida Outreach Childbirth Education. And Lydia, what exactly do you do?
Well, I teach childbirth education to women that are pregnant and going to be having babies, of course, so that they know what to expect in the hospital and what to expect during late pregnancy and things that are going to be done to their babies. And I also teach in the teen parent program in the local high schools here in Brevard County.
What would you say to a young lady that's taking one of your classes and she doesn't see anything wrong with abortion? She wants to go through with an abortion. How would you explain to her that it is wrong morally and physically?
Well, I would try to explain to her what actually is happening inside of her right now. The baby's being fearfully and wonderfully made right now as we're speaking, and it's got a brain, it's got a spinal column, it's got fingers and toes, it's got a heart that's beating at 27 days, and it really wants to be loved by a mother just like you. And I would also go in to tell her about that it's extremely dangerous to have an abortion. When you stop a natural process just right in the middle, there's a lot of consequences that can happen to you physically and mentally, and also it can be extremely dangerous because pregnancy is a very complicated process, and there's a lot of things inside your uterus to help keep the baby alive, and there's a lot of things that could be missed when they are doing an abortion. What's wrong with the local abortion clinics is that they're not regulated by the state or any organization that comes in to make sure that they're keeping up with their qualifications that keep them a member of a certain board. All doctors have to be certified through a certain board, and they're not regulated by anything. They don't have anybody to come in to make sure that they're keeping things sterile. For instance, James Pendergraft had 4 of his abortion clinics closed down because he was not following procedures. Therefore, the courts ruled that he was endangering women's lives. If there was a woman who didn't see anything wrong with abortion, I would say that there is something wrong with an abortion because it endangers your life and it also kills the life of another human being. Well, there are a lot of things that can happen to a woman during an abortion. One of them is when they go to dilate the cervix, which is they have to open, the cervix is the mouth of the uterus, they have to open that up to be able to get everything that is inside of the uterus out, which is the baby, the placenta, the umbilical cord, the amniotic sac. They got to get all that out. So when they manually pry that cervix open, because right now it's tightly closed to protect the life that you're having inside of you, when you go to manually open something, it weakens that muscle, and that muscle is a muscle you will never be able to tighten again. It's not a muscle that can be worked like all the muscles in our body. When they go to scrape things out of your uterus, it can be a sharp instrument that they use, and even if they use one that's duller, it can puncture still through the uterus, and around the uterus is a lot of your vital organs. So a lot of that can be extremely dangerous. Any surgery that you have is very dangerous. Also, they may not get everything out, and when there is something stuck in your uterus, how your body tries to get it out is by flushing it with blood. So your body will notice that there's something still in your uterus that needs to be gone, and so they'll flush it with blood. And if it's not getting it, it's going to flush it more, and then we've got massive hemorrhaging, and a woman can bleed to death very easily. Perforation just means there's a hole in something. So if you have a perforated uterus, it means that something has put a hole inside your uterus. So a perforated bowel or perforated anything just means there's a hole inside of it. And the uterus is where the baby is. It's dangerous to perforate your bowels because the waste that your body creates goes through those bowels, and if there's a hole in it, then that waste is going to be inside of your abdominal cavity, which can be very dangerous. So they would have to redirect your intestines to your side, and they would have to put a bag on it for the waste to go inside of that, which is a colostomy.
You can have an incompetent cervix, which would mean that you couldn't have another child. You could have a perforation of the uterus, or a perforation of any of the other organs around, for instance, the bowel, a colostomy, a bag on your side, or this perforation of the uterus could cause you to bleed to death. And there have been so many cases locally of perforated uteruses at a werewoman. There also was a woman in Miami who died. She bled to death in an abortion clinic. They never called 911. They simply let her bleed out. A colostomy is where, for some reason, your intestine has become injured or weak, and it is cut, and there is a bag put on the side of your body that you have to change regularly, and all the waste from your body, instead of being removed the normal way within a bathroom and a toilet, now comes out your side into a bag. It's not a very pleasant way to live. You can have what's called an incompetent cervix. You can have a perforation of the uterus or any other organ behind it, particularly the bowel. You can bleed to death. You can get an infection. And there are also mental, emotional types of things which can happen to you because you have lost a child. These are just some of the things that can happen when something goes wrong with an abortion.